Hey, good morning, everybody. How's everyone doing? Happy, beautiful Saturday morning. So here I am once again, just popping on live. And this morning, I want to do something a little bit different. Um, Generally, when I pop on live, what I try to do is go over a practice question, all of which I think is very helpful. But being able to prepare for this exam takes more than just being able to um, read and answer the practice questions. I think what's really important is pretty much trying to understand some of the concepts behind the exam or what you need to know. So I consider myself to be a social worker learner, right? I like to educate social workers and try to help them understand who they are, what their role is, and what it is that we do in our profession and why. And so without taking up too much time, because I want this just to be quick and brief. I hope you guys will talk back to me and be a little more interactive with me. The more you talk to me, the more questions you ask me, the better it is for me to be able to kind of guide you and navigate this process. So let's get started. I see you guys are popping on, so this is really exciting for me. So let's get it started. So this morning, what I want to talk to you about is the helping process. Okay. And so when I said this is going to be interactive, I really mean interactive, live, and impromptu. So there's room for error here. I may make some mistakes. That's okay. But we are here together to learn together and to grow together. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay. So the helping process, right? It once was known, or it is still known as the social work process or the problem solving model, right? So we're social workers, right? Yes. And as social workers, it is our job and our role and our responsibility to provide support to those that we service, right? We are a helping profession. And what we do all day long on the job is assist, educate, encourage, advocate, empower, influence, those that we come in contact with every single day. We service people who are having social, emotional, behavioral disturbances and just struggling in their day-to-day lives for whatever reason. And there's a plethora of reasons. What we study when we go through our program is human behavior in the social environment, and which is really funny because this is the area that most people tend to struggle with on the exam, understanding how humans interact in the social environment. And that's the larger umbrella of what we do as social workers. We look at individuals, we see how they socialize, we take that into perspective, we understand their biological and their medical perspectives and how that influence and impact what they do and how they think. We look at cultural perspectives, and we look at religious and spiritual perspective, and how all of those things coming together really help to make up the person or the individual that we service. Not only them, but us ourselves, right? It's all these different components. We're made up of all these different components that help us to become the person that we are today. That PIE, person in environment, that means something, that holds something, right? And so what makes us different as a profession in terms of being social, mental health professionals, is that social workers take the entire we look at the whole person. We take every area that is important to that individual and we pull it together to be able to understand who they are, how they function, why they think the way that they think, and why they do what they do. Okay. So that was just a kind of like brief little throw out there of who we are and what we do in our profession. And so where do I want to start? So I want to ask you guys a question. When you hear the helping process, what comes to your mind? What do you think of? What comes to your mind? Go ahead. I got the comment section up on my screen so I can see as you type. So if you talk back to me, it will help me in terms of where I go with this and how I navigate this. So when you hear the helping process, what comes to your mind? Anybody willing to start the dialogue? The helping process. Okay. So, in its simplest terms for me, I just like to speak plain language. I think sometimes we get intimidated or we become afraid to kind of share in dialogue, but this is how we learn. It's social learning. We interact, we engage, we talk, and we build from each other. And so somebody might say something, might trigger a thought for another person, and it would, inspire someone else to be able to kind of jump in. Oh, there we go. Yay. Here we go. Okay. So we got some folks saying crisis. We got some folks saying how we help our clients. Yes. We got some people saying advocacy, meeting with the client where they are. And yes, all of you are absolutely correct. So getting away from this big dictionary form of a definition. So the helping process in my mind and in my head is simply what we do as social workers, right? We are a helping profession. And if I spell anything wrong, guys, forgive me, because I'm doing this as I go. I'm just going off the top of my head, right? So work with me. We are a helping profession, and we serve people on a daily basis. So the helping process are the steps we take in providing the services to our consumers. Some people call them consumers, some people call them clients, some people call them patients, etc. Right? And it depends on your work setting, how you identify the persons that you come in contact with. And so the helping process, or the problem solving model, or the social work process is basically the steps that we take to provide the services that we give to our clients, right? And so when we're thinking about that, right, no matter what area of social work you're in, no matter what you do as a social worker, whether you're a community social worker, a school social worker, an outpatient therapist, a case manager, a hospital social worker, a policy lawmaker. What else do we got out there? A forensic social worker. Here's what I say, no matter what area I put down there, no matter who you are or what area of social work you work in, the one thing that remains constant, the one thing that remains the same is what we do as social workers. And this helping process remains constant. All right. So this is the one thing that remains constant, no matter where you are in your profession, no matter what you do in your profession, and no matter who you serve in this profession. The helping process is what we use and what we do to guide our focus, guide our treatment process, and guide how we serve our population, right? And so with that being said, I need you guys to talk back to me. All right. And I'm going to throw out a question to you, and I'm going to ask you this. What is the first thing you do when you come in contact with your client or whoever it is that you serve for the first time? Anyone? What is it that we do? What's the first thing we need to do when we come in contact with our clients for the first time? All right, you guys can go ahead and put it in the comment section whenever you're ready. Assess. Okay, we got some people saying assess. Introduce, goal set, engage, build rapport. All right. Nice, Tracy. Establish rapport. Get to know them, assess. Okay. Now, why am I asking you guys this question, and why am I putting it out there like this? And I said, what is the first thing you do when you come in contact with a client? Well, the first thing you need to do when you come in contact with a client is engage them, right? So we engage our clients. I'm going to put a number 1 up there. The first thing we need to do is engage and develop or establish a rapport. Some type of working relationship, right? I'll call it a working relationship or a working alliance. Now, what's important about this, I don't care how long you've known this client or how many times you work with this client, before you were able to get to the point that you are in with this particular client, you had to be able to engage, develop, and establish a rapport. You need some type of working alliance. You're not going to be able to do anything with anyone if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel comforted, if they don't feel like you're with them, if they don't feel like they can trust you, right? And so in order for you to be able to get the information that you need, the first thing you must do is engage your client, establish a rapport, develop a working relationship. What we're looking for is to help our clients feel like they can trust us, right? So that we can provide the services that they need, feel safe, right? Comfortable enough to open up and talk to us, right? These are the different things that we're looking for when we're trying to engage and establish a relationship with our client. We want to make them feel comfortable. We want to make them feel like they can trust us. We want to give them a safe environment where they can speak to us and talk to us and be able to share what it is that we need, because there's different things that we got to get from them. And if they don't feel comfortable enough to talk to us, we're not going to be able to get that. That word first, here's what happens with us when we're taking this exam, right? We think too broad, we think too big, and we forget to think about the smaller incremental steps. Please, if you get nothing else from this session today, listen to what I'm saying. We fail to think about the small incremental steps that we need to take to get to the results that we need to get. We're always in a hurry to resolve and to solve problems that we forget about what needs to help and the building blocks that's necessary to help us get to where we need to get. And so why I focus so much on the helping process is because I really want people to understand and get this at a different level. I want you to understand that I don't care how many questions you read or how many questions you answer, if you are unable to understand the developmental process that we go through to serving our clients, to helping them, then it's all for naught. You can learn techniques, you can learn skills and all those different things to answer these questions. But what happens when you're out there in the real field and you have this client in front of you and this person is in your office? What are you going to do? How are you going to respond to them? How are you analyzing and hearing through what it is that they're sharing with you so that you can understand how to best serve them? Okay, let's get this under our belt. Let's understand this helping process. So the first thing we need to do is engage our client, establish and develop a rapport. But why are we doing that? Because again, like I already said, before we can move on to the next step or the next level or the next part of this process, we need to make sure that they feel comfortable with us. What's step 2? Okay, so now the client then came into your office, you then broke the ice, you then had the conversation with them, and now they're feeling a little bit comfortable and all that. So what do we do next? What would be the second step in this process? Anyone? All right, guys, whenever you're ready to type. All right, what's the second? I'm looking for step 2 in the helping process. And please do not be afraid to type anything. This is how we're going to learn. This is how we work together. So talk back to me so I can know what I need to do. All right. I love these responses. Y'all got me hype. I need to take a sip of my coffee. Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. So step 2, after we then broken the ice, okay, treatment goals. Some people are saying treatment goals, some people are saying assess, some people are saying identify the problem. And all of that is fair and all of that is good. I'm going to say yes, fair and good, but we're doing it again, okay? So now we're forgetting the incremental steps. We cannot assess, we cannot problem solve, we can't identify the problem, and we can't create any treatment plans. You know why? Because we don't know what their needs are, right? And so our clients come into us, right? And when they come into us, they have a presenting issue, right? I'm going to put a presenting problem. So they come in for a reason. So at that point, what we want to do is begin to interview the client, right? We could call it interview the client or gather the data or the pertinent information that we need to understand what the client is dealing with or going through, right? So let them talk to us. This is our interview phase. This is the end of interviewing stage where we get to start collecting data, right? We find out what's going on from the client's perspective, right? We're just active listening, taking the report, right? Now pay attention to the words that I'm using. Active listening, right? I'm showing empathy. These are some different keywords that you want to pay attention to. So when you're looking at your test, when you're looking at the practice questions that you're studying and you're trying to figure out what's going on or what you need to do next or how you need to engage and bring the client into where you are, certain things you want to do. You want to show some active listening skills, showing empathy. Give them that space to talk, to express, to share, to let you know what's going on. And right here, you're just listening and data collection, right? So step 2 is all about collecting the data, gathering the information, all right? Hearing for what you need so that you can understand what the problem is, or so that you could be able to formulate, all right, listen to that word, so that you could begin to formulate what's going on. And so you want to listen in very carefully, okay? And this is where they're going to tell you why they're seeking services, right? So we always have a situation where there's a presenting problem. Think about your practice questions, right? Think about how the practice questions are written and how they're designed. It often starts off with reasons the client is in your office in the first place, why they're seeking services. And that's generally the presenting problem, okay? That's generally the presenting problem. And what I notice, and I see this a lot because I tutor also, right? So I have a lot of students, and what tends to happen, what I see happening is that people are looking at the presenting problem as being the identified problem, and that's not so. Am I making sense? Does that make any sense to you guys? The presenting problem is different from the identified problem, okay? Who's the professional, right? You're the professional. The client is seeking help. They're seeking help to try and understand what it is that they're going through and why they're going through what they're going through, right? And so they come in with a presenting problem. You, as the professional, is going to identify the core of the problem and what needs to be the area of focus, right? Now, on a smaller scale, okay? Stay with me, guys. On a smaller scale, given the vignettes that you're given to work on for the purpose of the exam, what happens, we have the presenting problem, and then we have an identified problem. Your role in this whole process for the purpose of the exam is being able to take those 3 to 4 sentences and identify the problem that you need to focus on and respond to pass this exam, okay? And so it's about identifying a problem. And we don't know what the problem is unless we're able to sit there and listen, actively listen, allow the client to express what they're going through, and then sharing the information, right? So this part right here is considered our what? Biopsychosocial assessment. This is where we begin to collect the data. We gather all the information. We record all this information in our biopsychosocial assessment. And then once we're done with the biopsychosocial assessment, we should have all the information that we need to begin to start the process of treating. Now, after we gather all the information, there's another step in this process. And what is that? Anybody up for identifying step 3 in the helping process? All right. Talk to me, y'all. What's step 3? All right. Step 3. What is step 3? Okay. Explain services. All right. So what we got going on here? Step 3. Step 3. Yes, okay. What? Treatment planning. All right, care planning, treatment planning. Okay, so I love it, guys. So now we've completed our biopsychosocial assessment, right? And now we're saying, okay, we're going to go right to treatment planning, right? No, before we go to treatment planning, there is another step. We can't write a treatment plan, all right? Stay with me. Yes, Tamika Webster. Yes, we can't treatment plan until we have identified what, guys? The problem. All right. So this is good. This is great. So step 3 is now where we assess the data that we've collected and identify the problem. Now, let me break this down to you a little bit, what that might mean to some of you. All right, so now that we've assessed the data, like if you're a clinical outpatient therapist, that assessing the data and identify the problem, we can now look at identifying the problem as being what, right? I would call that where, or when I've identified the problem as a psychotherapist, I am now giving my clinical formulation, right? And I'm going to ascribe a DSM-5 diagnosis, right? So that's the identification of my problem. Case managers or whatever, we're identifying the problem. Now we're putting into words, what it is that the client is dealing with and how they're, struggling with what they're dealing with, okay? And so that identification of the problem now is a clinical formulation, or we ascribe a DSM-5 diagnosis, but we cannot develop the treatment plan unless we know what the problem is. Once we know what the problem is, we can move forward, right? And so first, we got to clinically assess the situation, what's going on. We can create our clinical formulation, as I already said, right? And so we put it in words. So there's different ways that we can, define this stage, or this is our diagnosis of the problem, right? Does this make sense? Because sometimes I hear myself talking, but I just feel like I'm just talking and I don't know if folks are following me or if it's making sense. Are we together? So we've already engaged our client in develop and establish a rapport. We gave them a space to present their problem, to talk about what's going on. And so while they're talking, we're interviewing them, we're gathering the pertinent information, we're trying to understand what their needs are, we're collecting all that data. Then we're going to pull all that together, synthesize it, pull it all together, assess the data that we've already collected, and come up with our clinical formulation or our diagnoses. Now that we got our diagnoses, now that we know what's going on, now that we identify the problem, we can move on to the next phase. But I want to pause right here, okay? So for the purpose of the exam, right? The first 3 steps is extremely important, right? Why are these first 3 steps extremely important? If you do not understand what is going on in the first phase of treatment or in the beginning phases of treatment, how can you adequately answer the question? If you don't understand, if this is a new client, what intervention, what techniques, what skill sets are you using for a new client, you are going to miss the question and not be able to apply, the right answer choice. So understanding where you are in the phase of treatment and whether this is a new or an established client will help you with being able to select the appropriate answer or the best answer for the answer choices, okay, of the 4 answer choices that are given. And so also, you cannot move on in answering the question if you don't know what the problem is. So having the ability to analyze and assess and identify the problem that you need to address in the vignette, in the statement, is important. When you understand what you're doing, you're able to look at it with a critical eye, an analytical eye, and be able to pull out the information that you need so that you can properly answer the question. Does that make sense? So these first 3 steps, 1, 2, and 3, is what we will call phase 1 of the helping process, or the beginning phase of treatment. Right? So this is phase 1, or the beginning phase of treatment. Does that make sense to everybody before I move on? I just want to make sure that I'm making sense and we're all together. All right, so we got phase 1, 2, and 3. Are we good? All right. Nice. All right, so step 4, I'm sorry if I'm hurting you guys' eyes, just kind of moving this all around, but I kind of like the page to be neat. All right, step 4, what happens next? So some of us already answered that. This is where we begin treatment planning. All right, so this is the heart of the work that we're doing. We're now in a place where we can start our treatment plan, right, and our goal setting, right? Now, do we develop the goals ourselves based on the information that our client has given us? Do we select those goals, or is that the responsibility of the client alone? Or is it a collaborative effort between the social worker and the client? So if you guys need me to ask that question again, I can say it. All right, so now that we're at the treatment planning phase, is it the responsibility of the social worker to develop the treatment plan, the goals, or is it the responsibility of the client to give you the goals that he or she wants to work on? Or is it a collaborative effort for everyone, the social worker and the client, to work collaboratively on establishing those goals? What do you guys say? All right, nice. Okay, nice. All right, good. All right, so this is a collaborative effort. Okay, this is not about the therapist establishing the goals for the client, or the client just spitting out goals. You know what? I just want to be able to just pay my check and go to work and just pay my check. Yeah, they need to come up with the goals, but our job and our responsibility in that process is to help shape it and formulate the goals so that they could be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time consuming. Now, the client is going to identify the goals that they want to work on, but you, the therapist, the social worker, the case manager, is going to help the client make sure those goals are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time specific. All right, so we need clear, measurable goals, and they don't know how to do that. That's where you come into play, and that's where you help to quantify that, qualify that, and or smooth that out around the edges to help them see that they're making progress on their goals. And so the way we write out our goals, we can visually see what the client is doing to show that they are moving toward becoming better at their goals. So we we come up with the specific types of intervention, and we share that with the client and see what fits for the client and help them with attaining their goals. And so this is a collaborative effort. This is not something that the client should be doing on his or her own, and it's definitely not something that you should do. You should not be writing up goals for your clients and just giving it to them and expecting them to work on the goals that you came up with, but it is definitely a collaborative effort. In this part of the treatment process, this is where we're going to start, implementing, I said coming up with the goals and making sure they're specific and attainable, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and so what happens after we create the goals? What is the fifth step in this process? I'm getting a little tongue-tied. I need to go ahead and take a little bit more of my coffee because I'm feeling a little bit hyped. All right, so what's the next? What's after we've developed the goals? Okay. Now, again, guys, think incremental, think smaller steps. What do we do after we've created the goals with our clients? Okay. Nice, B. Thank you. What do we do next after we create our goals? Incremental, small steps. What do we need to do next? Nice, nice. All right, there we go, guys. Now you're getting it. Now you're flowing with me. This is so exciting. I'm sorry, I'm a social work geek. I'm a social work nerd. Okay, so after we've created the treatment plan, now we need to implement, right, the treatment strategies. This is my favorite part of the work that I do, right? And I also find that this is a part where a lot of people struggle as well. And mostly because we don't really understand the implementation part. We just do, right? And because we just do, we don't take time out to think about what it is that we're actually doing. We don't assign a name. We don't give definition to the work that we're so brilliantly doing. Everything has a name. Now, do you need to go out and say this to your clients? Oh, I'm using CBT, or I'll be doing EMDR, or I'll be implementing DBT strategies, blah, blah, blah. No. If you want to give them a little bit of understanding of different techniques and strategies and define that for them, that's absolutely fine. But you as the professional, when you're using various techniques and interventions and skills, you need to know the technical language for what it is that you're doing. That's what makes you a professional, okay? So let's begin to define some of those techniques that we use. And I'm gonna just throw a few out there, right? I already said CBT, I said EMDR, I said DBT, narrative therapy, right? Active listening, right? Client-centered approach, solution focused, right? Problem solving, right? What else can we throw in there? There's so many different things. Psychoanalysis, right? Psychoanalytic, or psychodynamic, I should say. We got psychodynamic. We got existential, right? We got so many different perspectives and so many different techniques and interventions and so many different skills that we use that the list is just, it can go on and on and on and on and on. We got crisis intervention, right? Anybody else want to throw some things out there? Some other types of interventions and techniques and skills that we use and that we're putting, so if I was to break it down and say something smaller, like journaling, mindfulness, right? Stress and relaxation techniques, right? So I can even break it down to smaller things such as that instead of bigger, broader terminology and techniques. RBT, which is one of my favorite. So we say RBT, and that stands for REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy, right? We got all kinds of family therapy techniques and all those different things. All right, solution focus, motivational interviewing, yes. Come on, guys, feed me, because there's so much, right? And we need to know what it is that we're doing. If we don't know what we're doing, If we don't know what we're doing, how can we provide the services, right? So you need to know what you're doing. You need to know what techniques you're implementing. You need to know what skill set needs to be applied here. You need to know, okay, based on this client and this client need, they may be better suited for this particular type of therapeutic intervention or this type of treatment strategy, right? This type of technique may work best with this client. Excellent, guys. I'm so excited. All right, we are almost done. We are nearing the end, right? So person and environment is sort of kind of like a perspective. It's a concept, right? So that PIN, person and environment, I will put that all the way in the beginning. We're always looking at the person and the environment. And when we're doing our biopsychosocial assessment, that's where that comes into play. That PIE, person and environment, data collecting, taking in all that information. So yes, that is a technique, that is a skill, but that's the first step, the first thing that we do so that we can understand the client that we're working with. And I must point out, and I want to point out that that's not, it's not stagnant, it's dynamic, it's always changing, it's fluid, because the client changes, they grow, they go through different phases and stages of their life. You know, they have children, they get married, they get divorced, you know, different things happen, so that those dynamics is always changing and always, you know, we should always be paying attention and updating those different dynamics as well. But that's good. So thank you, Suni. So now we're on stage 6, right? So before we go to stage 6, let's say step 2 and step 3 is phase 2 of the helping process, right? Or the middle phase of treatment. Right? This is our active phase. This is where we move into action and start implementing interventions. And so how does this relate to the exam? So these are the types of questions that's going to ask for action-oriented type of responses. These are the type of questions that's going to assess your knowledge and your understanding of clinical interventions, right? What type of strategies and skills, and how should you be responding to the client at this particular point? Are we doing things like making referrals, or is this a particular type of intervention that is being used, or should you be providing some psychoeducation, right, etc. So I could go on and on and on and on and on, but these are the types of questions that we will note that we are at least in the middle phase of treatment with a client, or is an established client that we've been working with for a while. So you want to pay attention to that, and you want to know that if this is not a new kind of client. And so because it's not a new client, you know, you're not going to be doing things that you would generally do with a new intake. In this area, you could begin to kind of challenge the client, or, you know, kind of confront some different things that's going on with the client when there's some discrepancies in what they've said to you and the type of work that you've been doing together, you know. And so understanding, again, where you are in the phase of treatment will better help you understand what type of technique, what type of skill, and what kind of intervention should happen with that particular question. And so we're almost done, like I said. So let's knock these last 2 points out. What happens after we've been actively working with the client? We've developed our goals, we implemented strategies, we started, you know, working with this client. What's the next step in the treatment phase process, or the helping process, or the social work process? Anybody want to add what's step 6? Anybody want to give it a try? Step 6, what do we got? Nice. All right, thank you, B. Great, Kawana. Hey, girlfriend. All right, Tamika, thank you. Okay, nice. Exactly. Excellent. So now after we do that, we want to evaluate, right? So what happens in the evaluation phase? All right, this is where we're looking at our progress, right? We're doing quarterly reports maybe. right? So if I could break this down and make it clear, make a little bit more sense. So now, you know, we're evaluating the effectiveness of the treatment, right? Have they met their goals? Right? And how do we do that? You know, we do progress reports, quarterly reports, right? And we're looking at, you know, if we need to update the treatment plan, change some goals, or add some goals, right? Because we may have identified some new things or some other areas that they need to focus on and work on. And so we're, you know, we're making some tweaks or whatever. And we're also looking at if they've accomplished their goals and all is good, if this is, if it's time for, let me say this, if it's time for a successful transition and preparation for what? Discharge, right? And so that brings us to the last step, which is termination or discharge, however you want to call it, and aftercare planning, right? Now, I'm going to jump back, okay? So when I put that word aftercare planning, now, I'm sorry, not aftercare planning. Let me say aftercare. Okay, so I'm going to put that word aftercare, right? And then I'm going to jump back somewhere. I want to ask you guys a question, and I need you guys to answer this for me. When does aftercare planning start? When do we start aftercare planning? Okay. So most people think aftercare planning starts at termination. Aftercare planning, it actually starts, how do you spell actually? In the beginning phase of treatment, right? So when you're back here doing this biopsychosocial assessment, hearing the problem and identification of the problem, before you move on to that treatment plan, you're already thinking aftercare, right? And when you create your treatment plan, right, when we're at that middle phase of treatment where we're creating a treatment plan, we're also including in there plans for aftercare. So aftercare planning actually happened in the beginning phase of treatment so that when we now get to termination or discharge, that's what we're doing. We're discharging them to our aftercare plan, all of which we did in the beginning phase of treatment. Now remember, this is also fluid. It's also changing, right? And so because we might learn different things about the client as we begin to progress through treatment and different things like that, and their needs may change. And if that's the case, then we also update the aftercare plan as well. We make those tweaks and those different things for our aftercare plan, because what we don't want to have happen, we don't want to get to the end of treatment and we have no idea what we're going to do with this client and where they're going to go. And so that is all an active part of treatment planning. And so it happens in the beginning phase of treatment, is consistently being looked at and updated and tweaked and revised for if needed. If not, then it just remains the same. So by the time we get here to successful discharge, then we already have the plan in place. Now, termination and discharge doesn't always necessarily happen, you know, this detailed and this specific. Sometimes we have a discharge that happened abruptly, you know, because a client stopped coming to treatment and we have to discharge, right? Sometimes things may happen with the actual provider, the social worker, and it may be a change of life situation where the social worker may have gotten married, got a new job, got a promotion, right? And they had to change, you know, job settings or transition away from the client. Or, you know, there's some kind of conflict of interest, and the service provider is not able to continue to provide services for that particular client. There needs to be some type of transfer of clients, right? So all different kinds of things can happen at this phase where a discharge or a termination or a transfer could pretty much happen, and it wasn't planned to happen. And what do you do and how do you handle that when that happens? So these are all different things that you need to understand and that you need to know. And these are all particular core components that you need to know and understand when it comes to taking the ASWB exam. Understanding your phase of treatment, understanding how the helping process works, understanding what it is that we do as professionals, the services that we provide, the technique, the skill, the implementation strategies, understanding all those different things, you know, is going to help you with being able to adequately answer these questions. And remember this, social workers, it does not matter which area of social work you work in. The helping process does not change. It remains the same. And so as long as you have a good, healthy working knowledge of what we do, you should be okay. Okay, now you have to trust yourself, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to know what it is that you're doing. Remember, think incrementally, right? Think incrementally. Small steps. Understand the phase of treatment you're in. Identify the problem that you need to address and apply the appropriate technique, skill, or intervention to resolve the immediate problem. That's all I have. That's what I'm giving to you guys today. I hope you found this to be effective. I am an individual tutor. I do provide one-to-one sessions. And it is a paid service. I'm sorry, guys, but this is how I make my living too. So it is a paid service. I am now in the process of running a study group, a 6-week cohort. Okay, it will meet for 1 hour a week on a Wednesday, either afternoon or evening. The cohort will only have 6 students to keep it small and make it effective. It is video conferencing, so we can all see each other and talk. This course will start in June and run through July. Anyone interested, go to my page. bridgetmontgomery.com/tutoring.html. Go to my page, fill out the registration, completely fill out. Make sure you read everything, guys, because the information is there. Fill out everything completely. Express your interest in either one-to-one group, group package as an individual, or the group cohort. Express that interest. If it's one-to-one tutoring you can book that yourself and go ahead and schedule. If you want a one-to-one group package, you can go ahead and submit that to me, and I will give you a code to put in so you can schedule your dates. Or if you want to be a part of the cohort group, you just let me know as well, and I will you register, and I will submit to you the payment voucher, how you get paid and how you get started and how we get set up. This was fun. Thank you for joining me. All this information will be here for a bit, and then you can also go over to my YouTube page and find anything that you may have missed. And I think I'm under Bridget Montgomery, MSW, LCSW, MSNPM on YouTube. YouTube is a free page, channel. And there's, I think, over 30 videos that I have uploaded that you can also take your time and just kind of go through and read. I also have other webinars that you can rent at your own leisure, and you can find that at learning.bridgeoflovellc.com. You can find that on, yeah, you just go to that link. And I think the webinars only rent for $10.50, and they're about an hour long, and you get about a 7-day rental. So you can also take advantage of that. Okay. 7-day webinar rentals. Okay. And there you will find more on the helping process. What else? Community development, demystifying the ASWB, which is really important for me. And NASW Code of Ethics, I believe. I believe they're the webinars, and they're all pre-recorded. So they're pre-recorded, and there are no handouts, right? You have to take your own notes. And they're only $10 for rent, okay? Okay, guys, that is it. I have to get ready for piano lessons with my son. So I am done. I'm going to go get dressed and get on up out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And thank you for participating.